Our guest today is Doug Zimmermann. He is the VP of R&D for Medifast Incorporated. Medifast is the company behind one of the fastest growing health and wellness communities, Optavia, which offers scientifically developed products, eating plans, and the support of independent Optavia coaches to help customers to achieve lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. The 30 years in the food industry has led Doug to Medifast. Doug has worked in snacks and beverages for companies like Snyder's-Lance, Cadbury Schweppes, and Kellogg's. Doug really believes in the products his team develops and cares about the Optavia community. I learned a lot during this conversation. So, Doug, what led you to pursue a career in food science?
Well, I never knew anything about food science when I was in high school. My interests lie in science. My father and grandfather were engineers, so the more science and math items were of interest to me. My mother was a very creative person, loved to cook, and I took up that interest as well. But it was, what do I want to do when I go to college? I remember going to it was a college fair night at one of the local high schools, area high schools in Pennsylvania. And I remember going up to the first table, picking up a brochure, and then went to the next table, and they said, "What are you interested in?" And I said, "I don't really know. I like science, but I don't want to be an engineer. I like cooking, but I don't want to be a chef. Heck, you have to work late nights. I got to work weekends. Kind of like having weekends. I got used to it as a young kid to go do sports and play and adventures like that." So they said, "What about food science?" And I said, "What is that?" And they explained to me, food science is the intersection of science, and at that time it was considered more culinary. And not only just from the consumption side, but the production, how you source, process, manufacture, everything from the field all the way through to the grocery store. And so I remember leaving that table, going to the next couple places around the auditorium and asking, "Do you have food science degrees?" And from that point on, I was focused on food science, and that started. Wasn't one of these students that went into college and, "Josh, I'm on my third or fourth major." It was, you started with that, and I've been with it ever since.
And you went to Penn State, right?
I did, yes. I was a four-year undergrad Penn State degree, and it was a really good experience because there was a lot of hands-on early on in the career in college. So getting exposed to various processing of dairy components, because Penn State has a very strong dairy and creamery program, which also had very good networks into industry. So I was able to qualify and be selected for summer intern jobs, which that really made just a phenomenal impression on me to really see it as it took place real time, not just the lab or the scale version that we had in our pilot plan.
Did you find any other schools in Pennsylvania at that time that had food science?
I did. There was, let's see, in addition to Penn State, there was two other schools immediately within. I think it was Drexel at the time in Delaware Valley, had programs of that. After that, I would have had to have gone out of state, but I did come across some other schools that had these programs.
Yeah. So Penn State was and still continues to be one of the best schools for food science.
It is definitely up there with a whole host of others, definitely. And it's great to see that other universities embraced, and a lot of them started with more agricultural background, and then it sort of, no pun intended, grew out from that, right? Mm-hmm. We've got the K-States of the out there, a lot of agriculture, but then they started to see, well, you take the grain and we get flours out of the grain, and then flour science comes up. And I've witnessed that at many universities where they would specialize in one thing, and as industry grew and processing parameters grew and knowledge and innovation came in, the programs at academic universities and institutions have grown as well.
Yeah. Where did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I grew up on the Philadelphia side of the state, was born in the Pittsburgh area. And then I think when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my parents moved us to the Philadelphia area. So that started the long career opportunities because I thought growing up out of college and then I would just be right there in the Philadelphia area. And my career has been far from anything from that. I thought I'd do my sailboat racing and skiing on the weekends, and that would be it. But no, I think my career path has had a little more opportunities for me, which required me to move about the state, leave the state, but gave some tremendous skill sets of even working internationally too.
Who did your father root for in football? The Steelers or the Eagles?
Yeah, they went back and forth. They went back and forth on it. So it was an interesting time in the household.
I was going to say, fair weather fans, huh? Whoever was winning?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. So you said you did some internships. Did any of those internships lead to your first job?
No, they did not. But it gave me a good exposure to the manufacturing and operations side of the food industry, as well as quality assurance, quality control, and which led to my first job, full-time job, was quality control manager for a food manufacturing plant in Pennsylvania. So I had a team of 6 different QC technicians who worked. We had 2 shifts. It was a 2-shift operation. And we produced frozen products like pie shells, baked pies, and non-dairy whipped topping.
And then from there, you went into R&D, didn't you?
I did. I got exposed to R&D while in that first role. I remember some of the people from the headquarters. The company was called Pet Incorporated at the time, and they would come out and run plant trials. And I was the on-site coordinator. And it got me exposed to what R&D could be like. A lot of creativity, a lot of science. So that played to some of my personal strengths and interests and the ability to create and innovate. And as I remember, it was about year 3 as a QC manager. And I'm like, I'm not seeing the big picture here. I'm seeing me 40 years down the road still coming into the same QC lab. Whereas the R&D, you could go in a lot more areas. So I then pursued the opportunity to join a subsidiary of Kellogg's at the time, which was a frozen food aspect that was doing dessert products. So similar to what I had some experience from my first job. But then we also had Eggo waffles and had the opportunity to learn that side of the business too, as well as drive some innovation over the years with that brand and franchise.
So where did you, and Kellogg's, you had quite a good career there.
Yes, and this was a subsidiary of Kellogg's. So we started, I was still in Pennsylvania at the time. It was the Mrs. Smith's Frozen Foods division of Kellogg. And then a lot of growth was coming from the Eggo business. And Kellogg saw in the early 90s that, the consumption of ready-to-eat cereal wasn't exactly the dominant as maybe it was in the 60s and 70s. And you had these new types of foods coming, which is another great aspect of the food industry, is it's always evolving. And so they formed the Convenience Foods division and moved myself and some others up to Battle Creek, Michigan, from Pennsylvania. And we became the part of the division of the company that was, the easiest way to describe it is if it wasn't cereal in a bowl, it was Convenience Foods, which led to the expansion with Pop-Tarts, Nutri-Grain bars, Rice Krispie treats, as well as acquisitions that included bagels, Lender's Bagels brand at the time.
And did they do toaster strudels?
They did the Pop-Tarts, which were shelf stable. And General Mills at the time, they had played around with those frozen aspects. We were a shelf stable, the Pop-Tart is.
I remember growing up, they were what? Strawberry, cherry, and blueberry. And now you have everything from s'mores to apple pie they have everything.
You do. You've got, and that just shows you again the innovation and creation that basic dough technology, dough handling technology, and applying ingredient science applying consumer and customer insights into the design of foods. And that's where a lot of food scientists, they think they just formulate. They're actually food or product designers too. And I've seen over the years, the food science side of the industry has really become more the designer. It used to be you'd sit with a marketing person who knew the brand, and they would tell you, well, this is what they want. And then you'd go into the lab or your pilot plant and you would create it. And I've always seen it that sometimes they didn't understand what the science could do. So I took it upon myself, and as I became in more leadership roles in the research and development side, is that R&D is not the drive-through at your fast food where you place the order, come around the other side marketing and pick it up and thank you very much, Venmo, and off you go. It is truly, how do you take their concept, bring the science, bring the operation, the processing components, and any other items, maybe nutrition that's of importance, and work that all in, and then collaboratively with your marketing colleagues, build out a product that really does have that brand essence and represents everything they're looking for in the brand and the messaging.
Yeah, I know, because Pop-Tarts is not, I mean, they even package them different now. They have like come in different shapes and sizes? And
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. In fact, it started at Kellogg's out of the Eggo waffle business. We had just the round waffles. And then we started looking with shapes, and we had the Eggo minis, which looked like 4 little Eggos stuck together, toaster minis, we'd call them. We put cinnamon in them. And we were going after a cinnamon toast. At one time in development, we even had a waffle that had a shape of a slice of bread. And then that led to Batman waffles and led to other technology that you could have inserts in and get different shapes and sizes, even led us into Eggo frozen pancakes at one point. So then they realized the power of shape in the portfolio of products that in the morning, it hasn't changed. A parent wants to get their child out the door with at least something in their stomach. All the research we did and the insights were a parent feels better, at least if the kid's out the door carrying that waffle, carrying that Pop-Tart versus nothing at all. Yes, they'd want them to have the wholesome, healthy, full bowl of ready-to-eat cereal or Rice Krispie treats or a Cheerios product, but they're just happy to get something, and that's where the convenience foods aspect really came into play, and today it still plays a role.
I think it worked for the schools too, because a lot of the schools provide breakfast for the children.
Yes, and it has to be something easy.
Yeah, they can't cook for all these kids, and they don't know how many are going to show up that morning. And I know people tell me that their kids go to school and they get Pop-Tarts, and they get, sometimes if they're going to target a warm breakfast, they will get waffles. They will get, ready, but they're all ready to eat, ready to cook or heat up or however they want to say it. But they're not, but they have them, and the school doesn't need a cook or a chef to provide the food for the kids.
That's right. It becomes more the preparation and have it there for the children so that they have the nutrition they need, because science will show if you don't have that good nutrition, not only the development, but also if they're hungry, they're not really paying attention to what's going on in a classroom environment.
So what do you think of the new name for Kellogg's?
It's quite interesting how they've taken that company and basically said, we've got a ready-to-eat cereal company. It's going to focus on a smaller footprint. And then they took the word Nova, which has some meanings of new, and their legacy of Kellogg's with Kel, and work it all together. So now they can become more of a convenience food, snack food company. It seems like all the companies have gone into some element of snack on the larger CPG side. I would not have thought Hershey's would be in the pretzel business, but hey, that's it's just another great example of you go where your consumers and the science shows you.
Now, did you know the name change was coming? Because it caught me totally off guard. I hadn't heard any hint about it or anything. Next thing I know, all these people are saying they work for this new name company. I was like, wow, who is this? And then I realized it was a name change.
I heard it when it was released, yes. I did hear that they were looking and would have, look, Kraft Mondelez, right? It was coming. But it was, I'm sure a lot of work went into researching looking at how that brand can grow and support other brands, because it's really what they are, right? They're a company that own brands and build those out for the consumers.
Yeah, well, my understanding is they're not going to change the Kellogg's on the packages. So to the
Right.
consumer who doesn't know anything about the company, they're not going to see that new name.
No, it might be very small on the company or on the packaging somewhere, distributed by Kellanova or something. But yeah, you stick with your brand name.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to ask people in out in the world, like at the grocery store, at a party, whenever you're chatting with people, is to get a little idea what they know about where our food comes from. And it's amazing how people have no clue where our food comes from. But I'll ask them, I'll say, so what do you think of the Pillsbury Company? You've heard that company. That's a company, right? And they'll go, oh, yeah, that's a very big company. There's lots of products. And I smile and go, no, there's no Pillsbury Company. It's a brand. And they're like, what? And I don't know if I ruined their dreams or, just messed up their mind. But then I explained to them that there's all these companies out there that make all these products under brands. And I said, and some of them are like, you have Pillsbury flour made by one company, Pillsbury crescent rolls made by another, Pillsbury baking mix by another, just like Hungry Jack bakery mix is one company, Hungry Jack syrup is another. And, I tell them all these things and they're like, wow. So throughout your career, I'm sure you've been at weddings and reunions and parties and stuff. And someone says, so what do you do for a living? How did you explain it to them?
Oh, it's very simple. I just look them straight in the eye and deadpan say, I get paid to play with food.
And then they want to know more.
Yes, they do. I've always told that to my scientists. Remember, we get paid to play with food in R&D. And forget what your parents told you. It's okay to play with your food when you're in this type of a career. And so then you start to talk about the different foods that you've worked on or that they might be aware of. And then all of a sudden the questions just steamroll in of, well, how did they do that? Like, was there really a Snapple lady or was she not? Because when I worked for Cadbury Schweppes, we had the Snapple, Dr. Pepper, 7-Up brand, Mott's, and Hawaiian Punch. And so you start to explain to them how things are made, what comes from where. And they just, to what you were just sharing, they didn't know, and they can get fascinated by it because they get it from the local grocery store, or sometimes it gets delivered to them, right? Depends on how you shop these days.
It's funny how they don't think past the door of the back door of the grocery store. They know trucks show up, but they have no idea where they came from.
Absolutely. Then you start to tell them, and they're like, wow, really? For instance, at one point I worked for Snyder's Lance, and I talked about the Cape Cod potato chips. And I said, do you prefer the regular full fat or the reduced fat? And I asked people, do you know how they create the two? And they were very wide range of options. There was, well, they use a special fat that doesn't get absorbed. No, not the case. Well, they have a special process that they use to not fry, but they air fry. No, not the case. And so you go on for a bit and you say, have you ever heard of centrifuge where it spins things around? And most people say, yes, yeah, I understand that. Say, well, take your nice, fresh, fried chips, put them into a centrifuge, and all of that fat on the outside that's sitting there doesn't absorb in anymore. It goes out and gets recycled, put back into the bat or the kettle. And therefore, you have less. Some people were telling me, well, they put it through a special washing process where they apply chemicals to extract. I was like, no. It's physics. It's just basic physics. And then they come out, they get seasoned, and then off into the bag they go.
Okay, one question. How'd they do it without breaking them?
Because of the chips are just fresh coming out of the tank, they still have a little pliability to them. So after the kettle process, they're a little more resilient than if you take one and open the bag and just snap it. So they took advantage of, and as that oil comes out, it also helps give it some more of that rigid structure. So it's ready for dipping anytime you want.
Most people think if you want to get the fat off of a chip or a piece of pizza or something, you just blot it with paper towels.
Those factories would be going through a lot of paper towels because those Cape Cod potato chips are very popular.
I know. I never thought about that. So you taught me something new. That's my favorite thing about the food industry. I always find out something new. There's always somebody came up with a new way to do something. I mean, I remember one of the first things I saw in one of those how it's made thing, and it was a person. They were showing a conveyor belt with boxes going down like cereal boxes, and they had a puff of air that blew on the boxes. And any box who didn't get filled with product fell off the line.
Right.
I thought, how genius is that? That's so simple. Like, who thought of that? Just to blow it off the line so that it doesn't go, get sealed and put on the pallet and sent to the store and someone opens an empty box. And I thought that was fascinating.
Having been in many different types of food manufacturing and processing plants, having spent time with some phenomenal engineers who design incredible pieces of equipment, what I find the most interesting aspect is the maintenance mechanic / engineering group at a facility will be the ones that come up with the most simplest yet reliable methods and techniques to do things just like that. So you could take your PhD engineer and they'll sit there and they'll design this huge equipment using the latest software, yet sometimes you will come across that mechanic, he or she says, nope, all we have to do is put this little switch here and triggers it off and off you go. And you're like, that's brilliant. It's so easy, no CapEx, no talking and convincing senior management of the payback over time and the outputs and all that. It's just, you see a lot of people because they're around it all the time. And they're the ones, they may not have the degree, but they've got the inquisitiveness in their mind. And I've always appreciated those people when I'd come across them in the processing and manufacturing environment.
So how many times when you're working at Snyder's and Lance do people ask you why the bag of potato chips were only half full?
I like to tell them that we fill by weight, and sometimes settling occurs when you have the chips going through distribution. Those bags are actually quite full at the beginning. But again, because they have different shapes and they will align over time due to the motion and the movement around that. But then there's also, in the last couple years, I'm sure people have noticed it not only in the chip industry, but ready-to-eat cereal, boxes and fill sizes are becoming less. The economy certainly has hit us across the entire industry. And so people, and you see it post on social all the time, they'll show you the box is this big, but it's only half full when you look down into it. Part of that is, the weight reduction piece going on. When COVID came and we had that hit to supply chain, the challenges we had is you didn't know where the next ingredient was going to be impacted. So how do you buy? Do you buy long? Do you buy short? And then working with the food scientists, sometimes this ingredient is no longer available. So you now have to get something that it can still meet the labeling because your packages are printed with these ingredients. It's against the FDA regulations to not have that ingredient on the package. So there's a lot that goes into the supply chain side of the industry, and a lot of food science really was put to use during COVID and coming up with the solutions. We've seen things moderate much better now, but it's more the inflationary hit that I think our consumers are feeling at the moment.
Yeah. I don't eat a lot of ready-to-eat cereal. I don't know, I've got away from it, but I was looking at the store the other day and I picked up a box. It looked normal on the shelf. I picked it up and I turned it and I was like, it's so skinny. I said,
Yes.
The shelves all look the same as they've always looked to me, but it was the skinniest box of cereal. Matter of fact, I hit one and like 6 fell down because they had nothing to support them. They didn't have any bottom to, they just fell down. But when people used to ask me about the potato chips, I used to tell them all the time, well, those chips are blown in there. No one's scooping them in, or they're fall into the bag.
Yes.
They don't, they put them in there so the bag's full. They seal it up. And then by the time it gets to the end of the line, it's already shook itself down into the box or the bag. But I just find that one to be the most common complaint from people is, why do I only have half a bag of potato chips?
Yes, you don't. When it leaves the line, it is full, but it's the handling, the distribution, it's the stock person, the couple warehouses that the food may have traveled through, let alone the many miles on a tractor trailer. And then the stocker at the shelf who picks it up and puts it in. Then you put it into your basket, and then you bag it because you're checking out yourself now because no one checks, we don't have anyone checking us out. We've all gone to you buy it, and next they're going to have to stock the shelves, I think, in the grocery stores pretty soon.
How is inflation affecting the food industry?
What we're seeing is the fact that the costs have gone up. The industry itself is looking to where can we try and save elsewhere. So you mentioned that packaging as an example of making the box narrow. That in order to get some raw materials, you just can't substitute. So you take the hit and try to find the other areas by which you can reduce costs. You'll look at your manufacturing operations. You'll also, what I've noticed a fair amount of companies were doing is, do they need this many products or SKUs, stock keeping units on the shelf, right? And then they say, well, it was good when the economy was good, but we can get some efficiencies of scale if we're running 5 flavors instead of 20, because each of those require a different set of packaging, handling, and such. So you're really looking at companies turning internally to themselves to see where else they can try and offset cost increases. But at the end of the day, and you've seen it over the reports of quarterly earnings, the industry has passed it along.
No, what do you think about the choices people make now that the prices have gone up? Do you think people are choosing different foods?
I think people are definitely choosing different foods. We're seeing private label growth, people switching down. Maybe they don't go for that Kellogg cornflake anymore, but they go to a private label cornflake in that instance. Also, we're seeing health and nutrition, since COVID is still on the forefront of the minds of many people. Obesity, unfortunately, has not gone away. And the company I now work for, Medifast, we focus on providing solutions to clients who want to transform their life through healthy habits. And we have a system of healthy habits. It starts with healthy weight. And then we have scientifically, clinically proven programs that our foods are designed to be a part of, and you work with a coach, and they can help them, the coach can help the client through their lifelong transformation, starting with healthy weight. Because after healthy weight comes healthy motion, healthy sleep, and healthy surroundings. So we've taken the food aspect and have built it out into a program that really is about addressing the issue today, the cause of obesity, which is overeating. And a lot of people don't have the habits. Our research and others as well show that if you work with a coach on anything, be it a golf game, a tennis, even platforms tennis, or if you want to go pickleball, pick a sport, you will always be more successful with a coach. So there's a lot of self-directed ways out there, methods, programs, companies even, that you buy their product and consume it the way. But it's so different when you work with a coach. You work with someone who's been in your shoes. They've lost weight. They've transformed their life. And so we, in the food science side here, the internal joke is you start your career out, Doug, getting foods that made people fat. And now you work for a company who is basically helping all those people who consumed your Snapple teas, your Dr. Pepper, your Rice Krispie treats, the Eggo waffles, the Cape Cod potato chips. But you can still have those. It's about learning about portion sizing and then also getting into a habit and a routine.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that. You did all that. You did.
Well, welcome to my podcast.
Yay! And you have found your way. Okay. So Medifast has been around for quite a few years.
It has. Medifast started about 40 years ago. And was started by a physician, Dr. Vitale, whose main goal was to try and help patients retain muscle after heavy surgeries, serious surgeries. And there was research being done at Yale at the time he was studying, and came up with identifying the level of protein and the ratios to help them build back their muscle or reduce the amount of muscle they were losing. He then started to look at obese patients out there and came up with the opportunity to actually come up with a product that's formulated with a certain quantity of protein, fat, and carbohydrates consumed at a certain quantity throughout the day, which he then started working with local physicians who had patients that wanted to lose weight or were in need of losing weight, maybe ahead of a surgery. And so that grew over time to becoming not just selling, if you will, distributing through a physician's office, but it has come to a direct-to-consumer business, which is where Medifast focuses now with its Optavia brand. And the products, all foods that we sell, are you work with a coach who's an independent coach of the company. And as I mentioned earlier, most of them were actual clients, and they've decided to take this on. Some pursue it as a side hustle, like a gig or Uber. And then there's many coaches who have been very successful and left the full-time job, and this has become it and has built their organizations to help others on their transformation journey.
Now, I'm testing my memory here because Medifast was around when I was, a teenager. But I remember it was not very good tasting. It was something that you had to really do because you really wanted that health benefit because, and some people were very obese, and I know that this was their only way to get through this. But Optavia is not that. Optavia has taken taste into consideration a great deal. So I have a feeling those physicians needed some culinary help along the way, and they finally got it.
And Medifast has grown over the years, and we've added certain disciplines to the business, R&D being one of them. When I joined 9 years ago, it was much smaller than where it is today. We have leveraged those food scientists. We've leveraged the advancements that are out there in the food industry to take proteins and make them taste better. Mm-hmm. All of the Optavia fuelings, or the meal replacements that we consume, they have vitamins and minerals, which if you've ever taken a regular over-the-counter vitamin or mineral, put it in your mouth and let it sit there too long before swallowing, you can get some off flavors. So the scientists that work on these types of products, not only does each product have to have an identical nutritional footprint, so whether it's a pudding, whether it's a brownie or a shake, but it has to taste well. So there's been a lot of emphasis on getting the hedonics and the sensory. Sensory is another aspect of food science where you've got that coming together. So we leverage sensory techniques to evaluate ingredients and product design to maximize that we are giving that client or coach the best experience we can within that nutrition footprint and being true to that nutrition, because we have clinical research that backs and supports our claims on our weight loss. So we have to stay true to that.
Well, I looked up some numbers, and I think people would be probably interested to see that the revenue for Optavia is almost $300 million for the last quarter. There's 53,100 active coaches. Because when you talk about coaches, people might think, a few people do this. 53,000 people around the world. And they have 3 million customers. And these are repeat customers. This isn't, because I know there's some food companies would have way more customers than that, but these are repeat customers. And I also looked up on Facebook. I started counting. I lost count after 100 groups on Facebook, just for Optavia alone. And some of these groups have 100 to 200 people, but most have over 10,000 members of their Facebook group. And they do everything from swapping product, like, I don't like this bar, I want that bar, I bought too many bars, I want milkshakes or whatever, to swapping clothes. My clothes don't fit. I have all these big, large sizes, swap them with somebody who hasn't got to that size yet, and swapping information. And I'll get to that in a little bit of one of my other questions. But there's one group that promotes eating real food once you have gone through the Optavia program. You know, how to get to eating, like you said, those other things that you want to eat that aren't bad for you in moderation. That group alone has 82,000 members. I mean, Optavia is a big, big deal. And when I first got into it and looked into it, I was like, it's almost amazed me that it was there and I didn't even see it. It was like it was laying there. And you've had this happen in your life where you lay something down, you search for it for an hour, you turn around, it's laying on the table. You're like, how was that there the whole time? So Optivia is like it's hiding in plain sight, and most people don't even see it. So how has dieting changed over the decades? I'm sure that Medifast has got enough research on that.
The biggest change, and you use the proper word there, dieting, is that you don't view it as a diet. This is a lifestyle, and there's many habits that go into our habits of health transformation system, of which healthy eating is just one of them. So some of the other advancements is the reality that a coach makes a difference. Yes, our nutrition and the food scientists have to design those products a certain way. And on the Optavia 5-in-1 plan, you consume 5 of our fuelings, and it can be any of the 60. It could be a soup. It could be a bar. If you like the chocolate brownie and all you want to have all day is chocolate brownie, you can do that. Because of the way they're designed, you are getting all the nutrients you need to support the weight loss program. So that, along with a lean and green meal, of which there's over 200 plus recipes, that is the heart of our approach along with that client. So some of the clients don't have the skills when they start out when it comes to meal prepping. They get those over time. And they can be, there's a broad range. You can have very simple and easy. You can have ones that are a little bit more towards the edge. So it can hit a range and appeal to a range of clients out there. Nutrition has always been a part of healthy eating. And early days, they were looking for the magic bullet, that one item that you could consume 4 shakes a day or something like that, and that would help you achieve it. And I think there's enough research out there that shows it's an ongoing lifestyle. And that's the biggest piece there around that, our way our system works.
In the broader sense, how do you think these diets have changed? Because I remember there used to be eat a piece. I don't know why I remember this. It was a piece of candy, a little caramel. If you ate it, it was called AIDS.
Okay.
If you ate
Yes.
this before meals, it was an appetite suppressant. People have tried those. People have tried, obviously, liquid diets. People have tried, now the big thing is intermittent fasting.
You're seeing a lot of options out there over the years, but it still comes down to the basic nutrition. Even the GLP ones that are out there in the marketplace now, and they have a positive role to play with certain clients who just can't get going or struggle extremely hard early on in the process. Now, it comes with side effects. So, and everything I've read and seen recommends that this is not a life solution. You don't do this your entire life. So, there's opportunities for certainly our Optavia approach. There's certainly opportunities for GLP-1s as well. But nutrition, when a pharmaceutical company says, will get you, but it's not going to be your entire path forward, that's where it comes back to lifestyle and habits to truly get to that sustain and maintenance level that you need.
Okay, what was GLP? What did that stand for?
Well, the GLP-1 is the molecule that the Wegovy's and those new drugs that are on the market, they initially were out for diabetes and now have been shown to help cut down cravings and are being used as part of, for certain clients, well, these are patients, they wouldn't be our clients, who can give them a start on their weight loss journey, but they have severe side effects. So that's not a barrier, but that's something you have to deal with if you choose to go that route.
Oh, okay. Now, is is how do you separate the company from is the coaching and the program, the Optavia program, separate from the Medifast company, or are they all?
We're all a Medifast company. It's like you go back to early in our discussion, you talk about Pillsbury, the company, right? It's really a brand. Optavia is the brand, and Medifast is the company behind the brand. Is the way and our coaches are Optavia coaches. They focus on that brand, and they focus on helping people on their lifelong transformation, having one healthy habit at a time.
Okay, so I did try Optavia, and I found the product to be very good. I have no complaint there. How do you guys come up with the different products? How do you decide? I mean, everyone knows you have shakes and bars, but you've come up with some pretty interesting things. And how does that come about?
Well, the some of the feedback from coaches and clients was early on. They said it was just bars and shakes. They got bored. I mean, this is what you're doing in addition to your one fueling, that meal you make, lean and green meal you make on your own. So you have your 5 fuelings in your lean and green. So the marketing and the R&D team started to look at what else can we have and what science and ingredient technology can we apply that can give some more of those mainstream type meals in a proper proportion and nutrition so that they could be a part of the meal. So that led us to soups, led us to the more savory items. Yeah. In addition to having a nice array of bars and shakes, we have other beverages, some coffee, cappuccino type products. We even have products that you and I would look and say, oh, that's a snack type product because it's extruded or it's a puffed piece. Well, these are the same ready to eat, on the go fuelings, same nutrition footprint, but uses food technology to deliver the nutritional footprint that we need. So a client can have that savory, they can have the sweet, they can have an oatmeal in the morning. Our mashed potatoes. Most people think, well, mashed potatoes, great, a lot of carbohydrates. Our mashed potatoes have protein in it, and it's a very, very good. I'm a mashed potato person, and I'm like, wow, if I can get my protein in a mashed potato, roasted garlic mashed potato, and I get 9 to 10, 12 grams of protein, I'm going to be going for that all the time.
You're probably aware that a lot of the products that Optavia does, especially not the bars, obviously, but some of the other things, the mashed potatoes you speak of, everybody hacks those.
Yes. And that's part of the creativity that you want clients to take something and own it. If you do it just the way it is all the time, the way our scientists in the lab, hey, that's fine. But allow people to take it, put a twist on it, and now with social media, put that out there. They're actually helping us with promoting, endorsing. Hey, see what I did. I made well, let's go back to waffles. We see a lot of our products, like soft bake mug products, that are winding up. People saying, hey, I got a waffle iron. What if I just pour that batter in there? Love it. They're customizing it to their needs. It's not changing the nutritional footprint. They're consuming it at the same proper time of the day to stay with their routine that they and their coach have set up. And it gives them creativity. I mean, it's like kids playing with food. Now they're losing weight playing with food.
Yeah. Did you guys buy stock of the Dash waffle iron?
No, we did not. But we're glad, and we pride ourselves on the creativity of our coaches as well as clients that do the hacks.
I mean, everybody has one of those. Do you ever work around in the lab and hack something just so you say, well, now we've made something these people can hack? Or are you just relying on us to go out there and experiment with it?
The way we approach our hacks is, yes, because the scientists are creative, we do have times where we just say, go and do a hack. And what we'll find is sometimes that hack might lead into an actual product designed for a certain way. We see there's so much customization is maybe not the right word, but the more a coach or a client hacks, the more they're showing they embrace and they feel that this is part of them. So if it was left to I wouldn't be comfortable if they said, R&D, just keep putting hacks out for people to use. We want the coach or the client, because it's a community. And you talk to your coach, but you also talk to other like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are in transforming your life with this one healthy habit at a time. And so they will share in those social groups that you were pointing out. And that gives them more interactions to find out, oh, you went to the same school I did. I lived 3 states away. So it really does help build and bond that community. And so I think it's great that we have the creative hacks going on out there.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear that, because I had this one coach that I talked to, and she was 100% against hacks. She said you should do the program exactly the way it is. Do not deviate. Don't add anything. Don't subtract anything. And I was always like, but everybody's doing it. Isn't it okay? And she was like, the potato one. I think someone could write a whole book on that one.
I'm sure they could. The amount of creativity out there.
Because you add an egg white, and you know what? You want to talk about something impacting us all? During COVID, you could not buy egg whites. And matter of fact, my one store, you still cannot buy egg substitute.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And it's Aldi I'm talking about. If I go to Walmart, I could get it. But to this day, Aldi has still not gotten back their egg substitutes.
Okay. That's interesting.
We would take the egg substitute, put it in the mashed potatoes, and that's what gave it enough substance to waffle it. Because there's also a great deal of pictures on Facebook of all the Optavia fails. The person who goes, I did everything you said, and they show their waffle iron, which
Yes.
now should probably be thrown away, and people trying to help them say, did you put an egg white in it? Did you put an egg substitute in it? Did you do this? Did you do that? And they, of course, I don't know if they did or didn't, but they're hilarious. But for a long time in COVID, we couldn't get any egg whites. I mean, I just had to sacrifice an egg. It wasn't the end of the world, but then you know what the price of eggs went to.
Yes, that's right.
So now you're now it's like a piece of gold you're sacrificing, and it was terrible. So that was an impact that we had with that. Now, I really, really think from the conversations I see on the Optavia pages that these people have no idea the science and that goes into making these products. And can you speak to a little bit about that? I mean, these people are coming off of, I guess I should ask you this question too. People are coming off of other diets. They're coming off of keto, raw food, intermittent fasting, all these different things. How have those impacted what you do at Optavia?
As you step back and look at a range of diets that have been or currently out there, I find it fascinating that each of them have a component that is found totally within the Optavia 5-in-1 plan. You'll have proteins in there, okay, a different quantity, but you have to make sure they're complete proteins because not all proteins are made the same. Some have like a dairy, a soy, egg, meat as well, all have completes. They have all the amino acids you need to make it a complete protein. Pea protein, which was a rage for a while, right? Everything was coming out. Pea this, pea protein that. What? They're good, they're protein, but they don't have all of those amino acids. So those sciences go in there. But you look at a lot of these diets, and these plans to lose weight, they'll have components of what Optavia does, but Optavia has it all. It has not only the science and the nutrition, the clinical research that Medifast has conducted over the years on it. We have a team of scientific and clinical affairs group who monitors that and continually advances us. But the coaches, we also have training for our coaches. So as they become a client and then become a coach, they're a believer because they've seen the transformation in themselves. And the more they help transform lives, it's almost like they want to pay it forward. So it is the community aspect that comes into it. So social ties into that very nicely as well. But you're not just doing it all AI. right? You actually have live people you're working or you're interacting with. If a client says, I just want to text you and not talk on the phone, that's fine. But what the coaches will tell and have shared with us, that the more interaction they can have with that client, then the greater the outcome is for that client. So there's sciences that are there, but it's really the entirety of the package. Yes, you can self-direct, but then that goes back to discipline. And sometimes we've gotten to this overweight situation because that was not there, or we're not being held. We didn't hold ourselves accountable. So luckily, the coach can help do that in a proper way.
You talk about the coaching a lot, and I wish I could remember. I remember somebody talking about this. They said, if you think about the great athletes, they didn't have managers, they had coaches. And they were, even Michael Jordan, when he was at his best, still had a coach. But you go into business and people have managers or directors. They don't have coaches. And so you can actually see that in a lot of areas. And it's a shame some people haven't picked up on that. You need coached, not managed. And this is something that's really been kind of always bothered me, and especially being a recruiter and helping people hire people, wanting to hire somebody who already can do the job. And I'm like, don't do that. Hire somebody who you think can do the job and teach them the job and train them and coach them, and they can do it. Hire a really good person, a smart person, a person you get along well with, and that would be a better employee than somebody who comes in already can do the job.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it's better for them to learn. And especially, I like to tell companies, don't hire somebody that's similar to what you already have, because they'll come in with an idea and you're like, we've never thought of that. That might work. That's why I'm always thrilled with these hacks. I'm always like, who thought of that? Did you wake up in the morning? And I would tell you, I'm not going to tell you something that you probably don't already know. Optavia is expensive. I mean, it is an expensive endeavor. And if you take away the fact that you're not buying all that other food, that is a little bit more reasonable, but it still is expensive. And a lot of people aren't going to sacrifice one of those fuelings to see if a hack works. So everybody's always depending on somebody else to make a hack. That's why I wondered if you guys do some hacks, because I would be more inclined to try your hack than somebody else who it failed on, because that could be a $6 loss right there, depending on what you did.
Yes, and the financial side, yes, it's for any of these types of programs that you want to help get yourself better at. What people can't look at, or we encourage them, is you're not just buying the fuelings, you're getting a coach that goes along with it. Now, that athlete who has a coach, that coach gets paid. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, let's say Tom Brady, he had a personal trainer and coach. That's what they would be working with. And Tom got paid well. And so certainly he would pay them. So in this case, you place that order for that month's supply, you get a coach that comes with you. You get the community of other people. You get an app as well. So there's, depending on what a person's desire is, there's many ways to get that support piece, that it's more than just the food that's coming in. It's the entirety of the opportunity we have here.
Dr. A is the one who's in charge of the I don't know, what is his role? He's the face of it.
Dr. Wayne Anderson is the co-founder of Optavia. That's correct. He has written the Habits of Health Transformation System and the book that we have out there that our clients and coaches use as part of their weight loss and health journey that they go on into the Habits of Health Transformation System. He's an active coach himself, and he started out as a physician and didn't really like the way, as he tells it, the medical community was treating causes but not the symptoms. And that took him to look at different opportunities, brought him to Medifast, and he has been with us now and part of the coaching and training of the habits and the practices as well as being an active coach himself of clients.
Medifast is not a manufacturing company, correct? You don't manufacture your own products, do you?
We have a hybrid supply chain system. So products can be either made by us or we use co-manufacturers, which are co-packers, which are very common in the food industry. All of our products are then brought to one of our fulfillment centers. So they don't go anywhere except to a client once a client places an order. Client can only place an order if they're tethered or assigned a coach. So therefore, this is not sitting in the coach's basement or garage. You go online, you can buy kits that are pre-selected for that 30-day supply, or you can select from any of the 60-some fuelings and make a kit up yourself. So you get that 30-day supply. As soon as you place the order, it will get fulfilled and then shipped directly to you, the client. So it's really a very safe, sound food safety and quality built-in process we have. No middleman, no other pieces that get in the way.
Which ones do you manufacture yourselves?
We predominantly will focus on the powder products.
The bars and everything are made by other co-manufacturers, correct?
They're part of that supply chain system, yes.
When you're making a fueling, it has to be complete nutrition because we're not supposed to eat anything else but these fuelings. How do you just segment that out, that these 5 are going to supply everything for the day?
Each fueling has the same nutritional footprint. Each fueling has virtually the same amount of protein, carbohydrates, fats, and calories, as well as fortified with a vitamin and mineral combination. So whether it's the brownie or whether it's the penne pasta, those are virtually identical if you look at the nutrition fact panel. And so therefore you can swap and interchange, as I mentioned earlier. You could go with more traditional type items, like a whipped pancake. You could do that in the morning, or an oatmeal. Or if you just love that chocolate brownie, that fueling could be 5 times a day for you, along with that lean and green meal, and you're set day after day because you're getting the combination and the quantity of the macronutrients, the micronutrients, and in a calorie-controlled portion.
How do we make this one size fit all, though? Because, I could imagine somebody has to lose 20 pounds is facing something different than somebody has to lose 300 pounds. And a man who final weight should be 200 pounds is going to have the same nutrition as a woman who has a final weight of 120 pounds. How do you get all that?
The way we look at it is we have predominantly a 5-in-1 plan. And from all the research that our clinical and scientific affairs have performed, whether it's a male or female, our program and our approach works. If a person has a goal of a higher weight loss they want to have, they typically have to stay on plan longer. Okay. We've now just introduced the healthy habit of motion in addition to the healthy weight. And now we have products that a person can also add access to workout plans. And we have some products that also go along with that too for motion. So getting activity and motion, and we're not using the word sports nutrition, this is activity. Whether it's you want to start by adding, I want to walk a half a mile in the morning or sometime during my day, versus, you want to do other types of activities. So we're looking to make sure we are giving people various ways, in addition to our 5-in-1 plan, to achieve those goals. And to your example, it could be that someone with more weight will take on more activities because they're burning up more of the calories.
And I'm thinking, though, wouldn't a 200-pound man need more calories than a 120-pound woman?
Well, our plan is designed for male or female. And so when we've done the clinical research, our nutrition group has come back and say, the way the plan's designed with the quantities of calories we have, it can work for either. Now, there are opportunities where if a coach feels that maybe we can increase a certain amount of calories to help someone, they can, but we can't go over a certain limit because then we basically won't be adhering to what all the science has supported and shown that we're very successful in helping people over time lose weight at a proper way and not by giving up And then the extreme side would be extreme fasting that's out there.
What's the food science that goes into these products?
The biggest piece of the food science now is around how do you get the taste and texture of the finished product that fits within that nutritional footprint. So that penne pasta, if you go to a local Italian restaurant, it's going to have a lot more carbohydrates. Our scientists have to work to give you that good flavor, but being within a carbohydrate restriction or a maximum that the product can have. So it's just equal to one of our bars in our line.
So how many people do you have in your R&D group?
The R&D group is a little over 20 at the Medifast Product Innovation Center. We've moved into the new center here a year ago, and we have a lab pilot plant, plus the disciplines of the scientists, the food scientists here. We even have engineering, and we have our QA group as well as our regulatory team here on site.
And do you have people on site for sensory? Do you have a sensory group?
We have a hybrid. We have internal panelists that we use, and then we leverage outside or external specialists and firms that are out there that do a lot of the deep sensory work so we can tap into their knowledge.
Okay, some of the people listening to this are not in the food science. I don't know if I explained that to you before, but some of the people I hope will listen to this podcast will be hoping to someday have a career in food science, just want to know where our food comes from. And today probably just want to know a little bit more about Optavia. So explain a little bit more about sensory, because I don't think people understand exactly what that is. I don't know what it sounds like to people who don't know.
But the simplest way to think about it is the food you eat, do you like it or don't you like it? And then there's a whole science behind it that breaks it down into various types of sensory, but there's basically what you smell and then what you taste in your mouth. And without going too deep into all that, the sensory field focuses on identifying the ingredients and or product attributes that a consumer might like or might help to drive their dislike of a product. And it could be a combination of the flavor, or it might be an aspect of the aroma. And so using these techniques help the scientists and the product designers understand what they have to change in the product formulation to address that aspect.
And don't you have to do a lot, especially you mentioned before, some of these supplements or macronutrients don't taste good. And you have to mask the flavor. You have to cover it up.
You do. And that's where the experience over time in food science comes and helps you with some of the techniques that you can use. Sometimes it'll be relating to the type of chocolate profile you are using for or targeting in a product to mask certain undesirable notes, but have to be there because of the nutritional element that we have to deliver on around that. And then we also have to keep up on what's the latest advancements in some of these ingredients that can mask or hinder, or if you will, push to the background some of the aromas or the flavor notes that come through on a product. So that's always evolving. It's like technology in your phone. It's always going to be evolving. So you just can't formulate it, set it, forget it, and move away. We have to stay current around that area of science.
Yeah. How long does it take to make a new fueling?
If you're looking for a range, we like to say anywhere between 3 months to 2 years. It could be a simple line extension where you're working with pretty much all of an existing and you're changing a flavor profile to coming up with a very new to the category product that we don't offer today. And that takes a lot more time in the design, the testing, shelf life. We want to make sure that the product lasts so that when you get it, the client is getting that experience that we intend. And that's for all foods. And they have a range of shelf life. Go into the dairy, you'll see best buy dates, best use by dates. So that every product that we design, we want to make sure we have a window by which it's delivering the best opportunity and the best experience with our coaches and clients.
And what's the average for your shelf life for your products?
We'll range between 6 to 9 months on the shelf life of our products. So, and these are stored ambient, meaning they're just stored in your pantry. No special storage required for that.
I know I've talked to everybody about this. During COVID, we had the pandemic. The supply chain went wild. How crazy was it for you guys?
It was extremely crazy, the craziest I've ever seen in the industry. We would have weekly meetings of our procurement group and our R&D group of what ingredient is now on basically the fire list. It's like, it's on fire. What do we have? And then we'd look at and work with our planning group, the group that says, well, how much are we going to produce? When do we produce? And they had to also adjust inventory and tell us how long could they project out. I mentioned earlier that the client can select a pre-selected kit or they can populate it themselves. We at times had to stock out or change those pre-selected, and because we could not get ingredients to make the product. So it did hurt in terms of giving that full variety. However, as the ingredients and the supply chain came back, which took probably about 2 years to come back to what we would say is a more normal state. But there was at least 14 months in a row. Every week there was like, okay, you had a list, there was a meeting, you looked at it, what's the update on this one, that one? And so it was a really concerted effort across our procurement group, the group that does planning for manufacturing, and our marketing and our group that works with our coaches to keep them updated of what's the latest challenge that we were facing on a product. Because at the end of the day, we want to give a great experience. And you're disappointing coaches, unfortunately, because you're saying, well, this one's going to stock out now. We're up to 15 products stocked out. And the optics of that weren't good, but the team worked very hard to try and minimize that.
When you decide to retire a product, what intel goes into that decision?
You look at a couple factors. First, you'll look at how does it sell? How popular is it? That's one of the main things. It doesn't matter if it's Medifast or another business out there. But you also look at where the trends in the marketplace are going around that. So those are the two main factors. Sometimes costs might come into it if it's maybe the sourcing of an ingredient or a couple of the ingredients, or even the manufacturing plant has made some changes. So, but predominantly you want to look at how popular is it, and from a trend standpoint, is it making your portfolio of product look current or look dated?
I remember when the blueberry muffin went out, and it was like the sky is falling, the world is ending. People were absolutely hysterical. And this was before the pandemic, and nobody ever got an answer to why it went out. And I think it's come back now. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it recently.
Yeah, there's many times and many reasons. You mentioned eggs and poultry and pricing. A couple years ago, we had powdered egg omelet, and it turns out it was one of those avian influenza issues that come to our industry every couple years. And so we ultimately, after trying to source from different parts of the world, ended up having to just scrap the product and say, sorry, we're going to discontinue, because we would get people who want it, as in the example you just gave, and yet we'd be disappointing because there were certain things that were out of our control. So you'll run into this with supply chain from time to time, and it's just one of those things that you have to work through. And we also look to ensure wherever possible, do we have a backup supply for some key ingredients too?
Oh, yeah, because I know the people that are purchasing your product have no idea how things are manufactured, and all they knew is you took away their blueberry muffins.
Yes.
And I stood back and just watched it. I was like, whoa. So how's your relationship with your co-manufacturers? How much control do you have, or how do you work with them?
Yeah, we have two types. We have ones that are strategic partners, and with any strategic partner, you share and divulge more information about how the business is going. They also share how their business is going. And then there's ones that are more transactional. And maybe it's due to volume isn't there or the product isn't as popular, but we still need it. So we have two types, and we own all of our formulation and recipes. So all the formulations are ours, and we'll work closely with them to source the raw materials to ensure that we're getting that nutritional profile we need. And then we have an extensive quality assurance program that does sampling from all the production runs, as well as auditing of their facilities to make sure that they're kept up to the food safety standards that we want for our products.
Okay. How do you work with allergens and people have all these allergies, and I know your products have contained some of those because obviously peanut butter's in there. So how do you work with those kind of clients and those kind of products?
Good news for the food industry. I think the industry as a whole and FDA have done a really good job of getting their arms around how to properly label, inform, and identify and test for allergens. There's practices where some plants choose not to deal with any peanut ingredients. So let's say you had a cupcake manufacturer and they say, we'll deal with gluten and we have ways to keep it separate from non-gluten, but we don't allow any peanuts in the plant, as an example. And that's a choice by them. And some people like that. For us, we make sure that we have all of our allergens clearly listed, not only on the label, but clearly listed on our websites. And then we monitor for allergens too in any ingredients or factories that might have a couple in there, and that their practices are keeping those streams separate.
Talk about the labeling for a little bit. So how detailed are they, and how do you help people read those?
Yeah, so a lot of our labeling requirements are just that. So they come from FDA. And FDA, I think, has done a very good job working with industry over the past 20, 30 years to close up loopholes that companies were using and maybe not declaring all of the ingredients in there. So it would look like maybe a cleaner label, but when you break it down, it would scare some people. And that's always going to be a little bit of a challenge. I think the aspects of labeling some of the more nutritional aspects of a food, how much partially hydrogenated fat or lipid might be in a product. So getting that information out there, you want to make sure that we're compliant. That's first and foremost. And then we do have a call center. So if a client or a coach has a question, either about the product, we can answer it, or if they have we have a nutrition support call center that also provides our clients with maybe some more information around an ingredient they're not familiar with. And it could be that they've always had it in their Oreo, but they've just never noticed that it before, because they are now more conscious, maybe more aware, because they're paying attention what they're consuming as part of the healthy weight habit.
You're probably one of the first people I get to ask this question. So since we started this, let's talk a little bit more about the labeling. What would a person just simply need to look at in the beginning of a label to, they're not an expert. They're just looking at the label, seeing what's in there. What do you find is the most important thing that they should look at and find?
In general, I would think people should be cognizant of the calories and the serving size. Now, our products are sold single serving. You have a lot of products out there that are multiple servings. And what is that serving size? You pour the contents of a serving into your bowl, and if you didn't measure it or get close, you're going to look and it says X number of calories, fat, etc., and you think that's in my bowl. But if you really check and weigh, or again, using whatever unit of measure they suggest, you'll find out if you're over consuming. Not saying that you won't eat it all, but you're taking more in. So I think that's the biggest thing, is make sure people are informed of how many calories, the types of calories, how much protein versus carbohydrate versus the fat that's in a product. And then depending on a person's individual nutrition aspects, I mean, we all had parents and family members who some are more predisposed to hypertension, some are sensitive to some other aspects. Making sure if sodium is something you need to be watching, you're looking for that on the label. If that's not an issue for you, okay, just at least be cognizant that it does exist. So those are the types of main items I'd like to encourage just the general public to always be aware of.
Probably the snack foods and beverages are the worst offenders for people, because you get this big drink and you're like, 110 calories. And then you go, oh, this is for 4 people. And you drink the whole thing. But it's one bottle. It's not it's not a quart or a liter. It's just one bottle. Potato chips, as you used to work in potato chips. People, they sat down and ate that whole bag. And it says there are 10 servings in there, and they ate the whole bag.
Yes, and using your beverage example, I think FDA has done very good in helping become tighter and requiring. I mean, there was a point in the beverage industry, and I was part of that, where you would take that 16.8 ounce of soda and, we'll just call it 2 servings. But we know darn well a consumer is going to drink the whole thing. So be truthful, put it for an entire serving. FDA, again, steps in to help us, working with industry, to set some more appropriate guidelines of what's your regular, accustomedly consumed quantity of products. What's the reality? What are people typically doing? So make sure that that's on the label, and you're seeing a lot more of that now.
Oh yeah, I saw a bag of M&Ms, or I think it was something like that, and it said like 350 calories, and then I looked at it and said this little bag's supposed to have 3.5 servings. I said that's like 4 or 5 M&Ms a person. That was not reasonable to me. And I have seen the ones where they say 2 servings, it's this much per serving.
Yes.
If you consume the entire package, it
Right.
will be this, and they have it there for you. Now, I don't think a lot of people realize that the ingredient list is normally the biggest ingredient down to the smallest.
That's correct. You have the order of predominance of the presence in that food that you're consuming. So potato chips, you should see potatoes listed number 1. If not, I think I'd put the bag down and walk away. But that is the way. So as you get down to the more micronutrients, sometimes you'll see salt or even some of your vitamins and minerals that might be fortified in there. At the very low or the tail end, sometimes you'll see contains 2% or less of, and FDA permits this. So you can just list those ingredients that are in there. Kind of think of it as a bucketed amount.
I have a grandson who is allergic to flax, and we only figured this out like 6 months ago. He'll be 2 in February, so this is a new thing. He's allergic to peanut butter, he's allergic to eggs, he's allergic to flaxseed. And we found that one out totally by accident because we gave him one of those baby food pouches, and it was like pear, banana, broccoli or something with flaxseed. Oh, it was not a good experience. So he's been tested as flaxseed, but we don't find that one on the labels. We actually have to call. The doctors have said if it says multi-grain, don't feed it to him.
That's a safe approach.
They throw flaxseed in there, so they don't dissect that one out. So we actually haven't seen it on hardly any labels unless it's like on this one that was probably one of the selling points, a multi-grain bread. It says with, seeds.
The following seeds, yes.
Yeah, and they'll say flaxseed and things like that. So our understanding is it's becoming one of the highest, it's everybody's getting this allergy for some reason.
That's interesting.
They said that it's higher incidence and it may hit the top 10 soon because I really think it's because we never used to eat flaxseed.
It was never a predominant grain in modern society. That's true.
I don't think as a child I probably ever ate a flaxseed in any way, shape, or form. And now I do because it's in everything. But these children never ate it. We never ate as a child, so I don't know when we were able to now eat it, but he's not. My other grandchildren can eat it, but he can't eat it. So we've been calling food companies and asking them if they have flaxseed in it, and a lot of them don't know. We haven't been able to drill down all the way to the. I'm going to step in probably and start calling some of the companies and getting into their R&D groups or their quality groups and saying, okay, I really, really need to know, do you have flaxseed in the building? Because he can't have any flaxseed, touch it, see it. I don't think even hear about it. So that's one of those. Now, In the Optavia bars, what's your main source of protein?
Yeah, across our portfolio, you'll find predominantly soy, which is a complete protein, and you'll find proteins from dairy sources.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're complete and they work well as an ingredient in either giving texture, how they dissolve, or providing some other aspect that's a good sensory experience. That's the main products that we have in there. You also start to run into some of these other complete proteins, but the cost of them can start to go quite high as well, and availability. You want to make sure, at least we do, that we're always able to get the ingredients that we need to handle the supply chain demands.
What? So if someone's allergic to soy, they wouldn't be able to use the program?
That's correct. When you look at our products, we do have some without, but if anyone has a soy allergy, we would recommend them not use any of our products with soy protein in them.
Yeah, and there's probably not enough of your products without soy to make up a good program for themselves.
You know, we do have dairy products. It can be limiting, though. It's just one of the aspects that we have out there across the entire food industry, that you'll run into people with allergies, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, because I love a good peanut bar, and I feel for those people who can't have it. And we don't have it here in our house. Well, we have the products in our house. We just know when he's coming over, we're
Sure.
not eating them. It's not that bad. Now, what changes? You've gone through all these industries. You've done beverage, you've done snacks, you've done breakfast. What changes in the industry have made a large impact?
I think the changes have been primarily driven by nutrition. And I look at that, I go back to when trans fats, really, cholesterol and trans fats started to become on the industry radar, and more so consumers, as well as health practitioners out there, which had led the industry to start looking for solutions about how do you get away from your sat fats, your trans fats? How do we start to use other ingredients to get us some of the sensory and other properties of a product that fat would otherwise help? And so there's been a lot in that area that has transformed us away from fat, but that's also pushed us more into, if I look back the last 15 years, we went to a lot of carbs coming in. And so then now, how do you combat the carb component? How do you start to diversify and get fiber? And we're seeing a lot more fiber components and ingredients coming in to the food scientists to work with, so that you can get some aspect of the functionality that the carbohydrates are giving, but also by providing the opportunity of fiber, which also plays more into gut health, which is a huge, we are just at the very, very beginning of the whole understanding of the gut microbiome. You're seeing probiotics come into food products. We actually have probiotics in our Optavia fuelings. You're seeing it in the supplement world. You're seeing larger corporations who supply to industry acquiring these companies that are leading the edge, if you will, of the gut microbiome and the probiotic side, along with prebiotics. So probiotics are the actual bugs that are found, if you will, in the intestines and in our digestive tract that help us provide benefit to the body. And the prebiotics are the foods like a fiber that those bugs like to eat. And then as they consume them, they have byproducts which are actually used by the body and helps the body function. So a fascinating deep area of science that's going to continue to evolve and become more of a stronger role in food and nutrition, as well as the way we see our habits of health evolving over time.
The fat part is always so interesting, because I feel like it's a lot of conversation with people who don't have any knowledge of it, and then the people that do have knowledge of it. But it seems like, don't eat this, eat that. Then a few years later, it's like, don't eat that, eat this. And it does become confusing after a while. And how do you address the fat component in the bars? Because, I mean, there's good fats and bad fats. And what do you do in those cases?
Well, we tend to, we avoid the trans fats, so we don't have any of those in our bars. We'll look to use oils and healthy fats in our products. And we also look at what else we can use in the ingredient science world to maybe give some sensory attributes of something smooth, silky, creamy, attributes you would expect to see in a high-fat product like a peanut butter. But what other ingredients can we use to maybe give that type of an effect without adding the fat itself to it or keeping the amount we're adding to a lower level?
What would be a good fat that you would use?
Well, if you look at sunflower oil, I mean, that's very nice. Soybean oil is a very positive oil as well, as you get out in there. So we'll look at those in context of the food, but also the sensory scores that we get
Okay.
on our products because we evaluate all of our products.
So how have things changed as you get the next generation, like the Gen X and those people? How have that impacted the creation of some of these food products?
Oh, that's the entire food industry has always had to stay up on what's the latest trends, and that is just how you stay current and accurate. In the CPG world, doesn't matter if you're making Optavia products or if you're making products for Mondelez. You want to make sure that you're on the trend and that your brand aligns and appeals with those people in that trend zone. So you wouldn't necessarily take a product that doesn't appeal to a Gen X and try and put it into a brand that they love. So you want to make sure it's relevant to the consumer who's in the segment that's the major user of that brand or that brand that can grow into.
Can you give me some examples of some of the trends right now that you're trying to stay in front of, or you, even personally, you watching the industry, what you're seeing?
And it's going a lot to that gut microbiome that I was sharing about. What are the ingredients? What fiber types should I be looking for in my diet? Am I getting enough fiber throughout the day? People first thought, well, that was just to keep you regular. But now that we're learning, it helps with the types of good bugs and in your microbiome. And you want to make sure you have more good bugs than bad bugs in there. So it's kind of like a neighborhood. You want more good neighbors than bad neighbors, or otherwise the neighborhood goes downhill. And and so, yeah, it is a very good thing. So I really see a lot coming out with the whole area of the gut microbiome in the future and how it plays into personalized nutrition, which as that becomes, the science gets more clear over time, you can do these DNA tests that would say, hey, Doug, your heritage is more, you're prone to this versus that. You might want to adjust some aspects, and they're using the gut microbiome and mapping that out to see how does that come back to a person's DNA and what might that inform them of things they want to do differently or consume differently in their lifestyle.
So we really look at where you came from?
You look back, well, that's our DNA.
Huh.
So they'll take a look at the DNA of an individual, and these are massive studies that are going to take years to do, and then get out there and say, all right, what's the microbiome of these people? What are the traits? Did they tend to have higher heart disease? Did they tend to have longevity? Maybe they all lasted predominantly. So looking and spotting those traits and then bringing it back to what they're consuming, how they're consuming. And it could lead to just supplementation of certain gut microbiome or organisms, probiotics, if you will, that can help someone.
If you think about it, years and years ago, people didn't move around as much as they do now. So you could look at it geographically. You wouldn't necessarily think about DNA, just look geographic. These people on this island, these people in this country, and their food source, like why can they eat rice? No problem. This other group can't eat rice. Big, problems. And so now I guess we're all moving around. Now we got to map our DNA to find out what we should eat.
As it's become more and more of a blended world, that that's definitely going to, now it'll take time to do, there's a lot of blending out there. So, but still plenty to do.
It's like when I have any kind of medical procedure, surgeries or anything, they always look at me and they look at my red hair and they say, "Oh, we have to give you a different amount of anesthesia than regular people." And I'm always like, "Okay." They give me more. I always tell them, don't go give me too much more. But they give you more. And they say we feel pain more deeply, which I don't know because I don't think I do, but they do it based on red hair. And now as I get older, they always ask me, "Is that your natural color?" And I have to say,
Okay.
yeah. I have to go, "Yes, it is." So they don't
Look at the driver's license. Okay.
I'm like, "Trust me, it's the same color," but they do that. So, what are some of the misconceptions that people have in the food industry about the food industry? I guess things that people, and I'm thinking of things that people will say. And we went to the potato chips. We said no, they really did put the full amount in there. What misconceptions do you run into that people you hear about generally in the food industry?
Generally, what I've run into is more how a product is made, and that they just assume certain things and don't really understand the amount of work and aspects that go into putting products together. They just assume you take this, and this, you kind of put it into a bowl or mix it up, and off you go. When in fact, sometimes it takes various steps of various processes in order to get a certain flavor that you want out of a product or a certain texture. And so there's a lot of nuances that go into it. You'll hear a lot of people talk about processed food. I remember talking to one person, and they were bad-mouthing potato chips and said, "Yeah, that's a real processed food." I said, "So what happens when you take an egg, crack it open, and put it into a frying pan with oil, butter, and you fry it? Is that processed food?" "Oh, no, that's right out of the shell." So you take a potato, you wash it, you slice it, you drop it into oil, you fry it, it comes out. And that's ultra-processed food. So there's a lot of the misconceptions of definitions, I think, that are out there. I think we in the food industry could do more to help just educate the consumer about some of the processes that are used.
Yeah, I think that people get lost because they see something on a label for a preservative and they think, "Oh, they put chemicals in it." And that preservative might be a natural preservative, but they gave it the scientific name.
Right.
But yeah, people will say it's super processed. I remember years ago when people always talk about processed cheese and they would say that's not real. And I'd say, no, they just blended a whole bunch of cheeses together in a certain way to come out with something that had all the attributes they wanted it to have. It's not fake cheese. They believed it was fake cheese. And to this day, I don't think you're ever going to convince those people. What other kind of misconceptions do you think they have about the food industry?
Oh, the other one that I tend to run into is that people, and we're human beings, we will judge a food product with our eyes versus looking at the label and getting more information. And I'll just use Optavia. We have products that if I put out on the table, people would say, "Oh, when I go down the snack aisle of my store, I'll find these products." Well, they're not formulated that way. We have a different amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fats, as well as some other micro ingredients in there. So it's not just visual. You really have to look into it and do a little bit of label reading. Again, just go back to what's the calorie, what's the serving size, what's the predominant ingredient? Is it fat? Is it protein? Is it carbohydrate? Just those basic components there can help you make some selections that can help you avoid some that are maybe a little higher in things than what you want to have as part of a healthy lifestyle.
What do you think? Well, let's go back to the processed foods for a second. What do you think about, there's so many things out there that people no longer make at home. Okay? They purchase it already made. And some of it's been around for a long time. It was a precursor to it, like soup. We could all make soup, but, now they put it in a can for us. We don't have to make soup. But I see so many foods, especially when I go to Sam's Club and they're family size. These people don't even have to make a pot roast dinner. It comes completely already made for them.
Yes, it does. And that's a lot of the convenience factor, right? I mean, that comes down to think of anything that is much more convenient. I will pick up this iPhone and I will now go ahead and order from Amazon to arrive at my house later this week. I do not have to go out to a mall, if you can find one, and shop for it. So I see it as the overarching trend of convenience continuing to grow across our country and across the world.
Does Optavia go outside of North America? Do you have it in other parts of the world?
Yeah, right now we are focused right here in the United States. So that is the market.
Not Canada?
Not at this time. We have explored beyond borders in the past. Currently, we are focused just on the United States.
All right, that's interesting because I was thinking about that because I was on vacation. I was in Costa Rica, and they were talking about their Amazon deliveries, and it takes them 3 to 4 weeks to get an Amazon delivery. So they don't have any of the convenience that we have. So they don't buy certain things because it's not going to come for a month. They can't buy, well, they wouldn't, like I could order candy off of Amazon. It could come to my house. They couldn't do that. They can't order food products. They can't order supplements. They can't order anything like that. But so they don't have that. So I was wondering about the Optavia. So what kind of new careers do you think are going to come out into the food industry now that we have all of these, I guess, as we move forward?
I see nutrition and the additional blending of science and pseudo medicine coming more and more together. Again, it goes through the gut microbiome, the aspects of us understanding more about the body and nutrition overall, and how we can influence certain aspects of our personal environment in order to avoid certain downside, either medical or health situations. So I see a lot of that. And then as we get more data and the ability and understanding of AI to manage data, especially going to the examples of taking a database of DNA from humans and then a database of all the information we have on probiotics and starting to crunch those numbers, I can see that coming in. And while it's different fields in food science, I could see that actually food science expanding into how do they bring AI into as another part of the science. So you had sensory science that has helped us as food scientists understand the way people sense. How do you grab AI and pull that into how you design and look at ingredients that we use and how you put products together to maybe address certain need states or health conditions that a person might be predisposed to.
Wow. It's like the science is going to get smarter for us.
And it goes back to our computers. Look what the speed you had on a computer at the 1990 to versus what you have now, right? That law just keeps, Moore's law keeps saying you're going to keep increasing. I've never seen anything yet that says, we're going to start slowing down.
No, I'm one of those people that stands in front of a microwave and says, hurry up. So is Optivia trying to capture more into this gut health? Are you guys looking more into that for adding things into the products?
Yeah, we committed to it probably about 6-7 years ago when we started to add the current probiotic to all the Optavia fueling. So it's an area of focus for us as we're not out there actively leading the research. There's other much larger companies doing that, but we are actively monitoring what's going on and relying on the ingredient companies who are leading that research and our strategic partners there to understand what's coming and to understand how it can best play a role in our habits of health transformation system for our clients.
So what do you see for the next 10 years, so for the future of I'll let you answer that any way you want. Yourself, Optavia, the food industry. What do you see coming?
In the near term, I see we're still going to have some fallout and turmoil because of current financial market situation as well as global situations. But I don't see the basic science research slowing down in any areas, be it AI or some of the other aspects of ingredients that we will see benefits. So I expect to see more learning, and I'll call it a blurring, but maybe it's more coming together of the medical side with more of the food and food nutrition side.
Okay, so there's hope for us all for the to get healthier, maybe lose some weight, move around a little more.
And get good sleep, absolutely, as well as have healthy surroundings. So there's many aspects of a healthy life, and it has its own definition. It's not like you have to be one body BMI or have one certain aspects. There's multiple components to it. And having a balance, I think, is the biggest piece there. And that's where community, and not everyone has a big family, but there's still community out there that can be a part of it.
I think the thing that I've learned the most in the recent years is about the walking. Everyone said walking was the best. And I think too many of us kind of didn't listen because we were listening to go to the gym, run the treadmill, do the aerobics, do all those things. And walking was this hidden gem that we just weren't, I guess it wasn't the sexy thing to do.
Sure.
And so my mother is 91 years old.
That's fantastic.
And her whole career was as a nurse in the hospital. She worked she was in the home health nursing, and she had to go to every nurse's station on every floor every day. So we figured she walked about the length of 9 football fields every day.
That's fantastic.
Right. But now, fast forward to all our lovely computers, I'm pretty sure that the person who has her job now is sitting at home doing it remotely because they can access every hospital record from their house by their computer and never walk into the building. So that person is not going to probably make 91, not like she did. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't do any other form of exercise. My mother never did an exercise program, never saw her doing aerobics, never saw her watch a video and do it. She wasn't doing Jane Fonda or anything. And here she is, 91, in pretty much good health. I think she'll wear out before anything else. And she walked. And I thought about that in the last 2 years. I thought, that's it. And here I am working a job where I sit the whole day.
Yes, they say sitting is sort of the new cigarettes, if you will.
Yeah.
When we designed the Medifast Product Innovation Center, every office or cube station has a desk that you can sit or stand at.
Yeah,
so
mine too.
I do a lot of standing during the day. And so we just want to give people that option. And those are the kinds of smart changes, sensible changes we in industry can make, no matter what the role is that a person plays, to, again, just another very basic aspect, the habit that you make out of it. And it's all about habits that can really have a positive impact on your life.
I think we've pretty much discussed everything we could cover today, and I really appreciate your time. Do you have any parting words? Because those were pretty good ones right there.
I think I will leave it at that. I've thoroughly enjoyed the time with you as well.
Great.
Love the industry, and as I said, I get paid to play with food. So
yeah.
What can be better than that?
Well, I think for you're playing with food and making people healthy. I think that's pretty good.
Yes. When you transform lives, it's a lot better than a diet Snapple, and nothing wrong with that, or a low-fat Eggo waffle. But when you see coaches who have gone through their healthy weight transformation and the stories they tell, yes, it's truly a blessing to be able to work for a company like this.
Well, good. Well, thank you for being here, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.